Black Myth Wukong just got nominated for 2024's Game of the Year, and I couldn't be happier to see my favorite game from this year among the best in the industry. Game Science, the developer behind Wukong, debuted in the console and PC gaming space, with their other work consisting of mainly mobile games. Not only did they bring something fresh to the industry, but they did so at the highest possible level. I first heard about Black Myth Wukong a couple of years ago thanks to one of my favorite YouTube channels, Eric's Gaming. They covered the early news and information regarding a game that looked a little too good to be true. Wukong's early trailers had many players, including myself, questioning whether or not the game was even legitimate. The combat looked flashier than anything out at the time, and the cutscenes looked impeccable. These beautiful visuals, mixed with the knowledge of Game Science primarily developing phone games, made Black Myth look like potential shovelware, a fake game that would be used to promote yet another gacha game. I held my doubts at bay and followed the game's development, hoping it was real. The pressure to deliver weighed on Black Myth Wukong as its release date approached. I was expecting to play a mediocre yet fun RPG. However, my expectations were blown out of the water. The combat was just as flashy as the trailers promised, and it felt great on sticks. No pun intended. The world and its maps went beyond what I thought we would see, and the story was compelling with exciting characters. The fun gameplay, interesting world, and fascinating story are what landed Black Myth Wukong its Game of the Year nomination. Many of us thought Wukong would be closely related to the Souls-like genre, and in some aspects such as boss fights and checkpoints, it does. But it's much more than that. The story, world traversal, and enemy encounters remind me more of the recent God of War games. The skill tree and stance changing mechanic are reminiscent of games like Ghost of Tsushima. My favorite thing about Black Myth Wukong is that it's not just one type of game, but a blend of my favorites with a fresh coat of paint. I appreciated the flow of combat and encounters. The basic enemies had good variety, especially when traversing different chapters. There weren't many that gave me much trouble, which left the true combat challenges for the boss fights. Black Myth Wukong bolsters an impressive 107 boss fights, each of which feel unique, even with a couple of them sharing similar character designs, namely the Wandering White and Elder Jinchi. My favorite boss of the game is actually one that took me several hours to defeat. That boss was the Tiger Vanguard, who the player encounters in Chapter 2. Something about fighting a bipedal tiger wielding a sword in a literal pool of blood really did it for me. This setting is among my favorites where boss fight areas are concerned. Visuals aside, the fight itself stood out to me as the most fun, even if I was getting destroyed. The Tiger Vanguard boss fight also lacked environmental hazards, a mechanic I hate to see in boss fights, as many times they feel unfair and can ruin a run. Looking at you, Yellow Wind Sage. With a clear battlefield to fight in, I felt the most enjoyment in learning the Tiger Vanguard's moveset and finding the best openings and combos to retaliate with, making this one-on-one battle of martial arts a memorable gaming moment. The story of Black Myth kept me intrigued throughout my time playing. Wukong is based on one of China's most popular stories, A Journey to the West, which has inspired other stories such as Dragon Ball Z. The story is packed with fascinating characters and Chinese religious myths and legends, with Buddhism at the forefront. The story can be a little difficult to follow if you don't know the source material, but that didn't affect my enjoyment of it, and I sought out Chinese YouTubers who explained the game's story in relation to the novel. Both the combat and the story came to an exciting conclusion at the end of the game. The final boss fight truly felt like a final test of the player's strength and abilities they gained along their journey. Some of the overarching story points were explained, and finishing the game felt like a fully explored adventure. Originally, I thought I would casually play through the game once and be done with it. I did the complete opposite and played through the game twice, back to back, to obtain the Platinum Trophy, cleverly named Final Fulfillment, which is exactly how I felt once the final trophy popped. What made my experience even better was playing the game with one of my best friends. We started playing at the same time, and we would hang out in Discord as we fought through each chapter. We explained our strategies and builds to each other while offering advice on boss fights we found ourselves stuck on. When one of us was ready to play, we would text the other, "Monkey time?" And thus our ritual of becoming the best martial arts monkey began. Black Myth Wukong is more than deserving of the Game of the Year award, and I hope to see its name announced as the winner. Even if Black Myth Wukong doesn't win, I'll be looking forward to the next adventure Game Science brings to us.